welcome to SveNFL.
What is up, y'all?
It's Jonathan Rollins.
Skip Misara.
And we're two Americans living in Sweden talking about football. Yeah, man. We are back. Week 13 is in the books. And now we're here to talk about it, man. I'm not one to overreact or brag about anything.
Right.
But the Miami Dolphins are the one team.
It's true.
My team's number one in the AFC. Got the 1 seed for now. It's like the 1 seed has exchanged hands like 5 times this year. Right? Something like that. Chiefs have been, Ravens have been, Dolphins have been.
Well, it exchanged 4 or 5 times just last week alone.
Oh, yeah, that's true, man.
That was crazy.
But we holding it.
There were some big time shakeups all over the league this week. It's getting a little crazy on the NFC side of the ball. Yeah. That being said, before we get started, I obviously need to start by pouring one out for my Bulldogs, who were finally defeated after a 29-game win streak. Yeah, we picked the SEC championship game to come up short. Besides the refs deciding that it was Alabama's turn, we did not play our best football. We really didn't. We didn't play our best. We kind of beat ourselves in some ways. But after back-to-back national championships, I don't want to be one of those bitchy fans, nor do I want to go back to that old like defeatist, self-loathing, we can't have nice things bullshit either. I don't want to be like that. Yeah. It was always going to end at some point, so I choose to focus on how grateful I am that it even happened at all, because it was a killer run. I never could have imagined that we would win back-to-back national championships. And I can't wait to saddle up again next year with the expanded playoff system, because that's just going to be so much more fun to watch anyway. Yeah. And for those of you who are interested in college football, there was a lot of controversy in how they decided the 4 teams that are going to the playoffs. I don't want to go into that here, but if you're interested, you can go check it out. It's a real shit show.
I, for one, am glad, because fuck FSU. So
true. And ultimately, I do think that they do have the 4 best teams playing against each other. But it's just it's weird. It just feels wrong when you have a team that's undefeated who goes and you have a team that has 1 loss that goes from 8th place all the way to 4th place. It's never happened before. Yeah. They've never had a team jump that high before.
But you lose. I get the logic. It just seems like it's wrong, man. Like they lost their star player. Yeah, that doesn't mean that he means that much to the team. They won games since he was out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they won their conference championship with a 3rd-string quarterback. Yeah, I mean, what more do you need them to do? It's like,
is it for the team or what? It's like it's fucked up. They're just like, no, man, you can't beat them. You can't. Let us prove it.
College football makes no sense. I think that they were probably overcompensating for the mistake that they made last year, which was allowing TCU into the playoffs.
Oh, they don't want the ass whooping like that. Yeah.
And obviously TCU kind of shocked Michigan, but then once they met Georgia, that was like,
come on,
like that was almost a joke. Yeah. Like,
maybe that's what they don't want. They don't want the championship game to be it. So it's your fault, actually. Don't beat the shit out of teams like that.
What are you gonna do? I don't know.
If you don't want us dancing in the end zone, don't let us score a touchdown.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like I waited so long to see the Bulldogs win a national championship that the idea that they could win 2 in a row was like unimaginable to me. Yeah. So the fact that happened, and the fact that I got to share that with my son, who I've turned into a Bulldogs fan. I feel like it was like I've turned my son into a Bulldogs fan and a Falcons fan. Turning him into a Falcons fan is probably the worst thing I've ever done to my son. It's like straight up child abuse. So I'm just glad that the Bulldogs could deliver those back-to-back championships to kind of make up for that Falcons fan.
Yeah, balance it out, man.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of want to hop right into these games, man. We had the Thursday night game. It just shat upon our theory of unders for Thursday nights because Seattle came to play, man.
Yeah, they did.
And they had Dallas. I kind of woke up in the middle of the night and watched. And I was like, "What?" I thought I was looking at the score wrong because Dallas scored a touchdown. It was 28 to 14 or something like that, whatever it was. But they were down and they scored, and I was like, "Man, they're blowing them out, man." I was like, "Why won't they put the points on the on the right side?" But no, it was Dallas was behind, and they ended up winning. But it was just shocked me that Seattle came out there. Geno was out there slinging that thing.
Yeah, Geno was slinging it. Charbonnet was doing a very good job of filling in for Kenneth Walker.
Yeah.
And DK Metcalf, who we have been waiting to arrive all season, has had a pretty disappointing season by his standards. Suddenly just exploded with 134 yards and 3 touchdowns. The man was uncoverable and fast as hell.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you see that he broke he's like fast. They recorded the top speed in the whole season on him that day. So that's good. Good for them, man. Good for them. Good job. But Dak was out here looking like an MVP.
I agree, and I think this was a really important kind of win for the Cowboys. Obviously, we've been talking about how they blow out bad teams, and they don't, tend to be like their losses are always against like the really good teams. Now, obviously, the Seahawks. I'm not saying the Seahawks are one of the best teams in the NFL, but it was very encouraging if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan that you could get into a shootout and come out on top. Because this was one of those games where it was like, whoever blinks first you're going to lose. And that's essentially kind of, that is more or less what happened. Geno did throw a pick in this game.
So is the Mike McCarthy is trash narrative, can we put that to bed? Kellen Moore's gone. The Chargers offense looks like Dookie Duke. And the Cowboys have missed a step and look better on offense than they did before.
I think, unfortunately for Mike McCarthy, the narrative for him will not be complete until we see them in the playoffs, because the story of the Cowboys is that, they always look kind of good. They always make it into the playoffs, and they always fail to make it to the NFC Championship game. So until that happens, there's still room. I mean, just think about the last 2 years, how the Cowboys have fallen out of the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, last year with that, where they had Zeke at center. And then the year before that was the one where they didn't get, they ran a play, but Dak didn't go down fast enough, and they couldn't get to the ball, and they ran out of time.
No, the guy was on the ball. He set it himself, but the ref is supposed to set it. So they lost time, so they never got off the snap.
Right. So we'll see. Either way, I mean, the Cowboys look good. We'll get to the Eagles game later, obviously. But this is, next week is we got some tasty matchups next week, because, the Eagles lost, which means the Cowboys are only 1 game behind the Eagles. And they play each other next week. There's a very real chance that the Cowboys can win this division at this point. It's all there. So it's fascinating to see how this plays out. They're set up to do it.
Yeah.
We'll see how.
As an update, I'm down 11 points and flipping pick'em. I'm just falling, man. It really hurts. But the next game was the Titans were up against the Colts. The Titans out here putting up 28 points and shit. Derrick Henry came alive, but the Colts ultimately won at the end of the game with Gardner Minshewing.
I feel like the Titans had this one in the bag, But after 2 blocked punts,
the game got hurt too.
The game essentially turned on its head, much like the Titans kicker himself, who was forced to leave the game because he got upended. And on one of those block punts, they were able to scoop it up and take it to the house. The whole game shifted on those 2 plays. The game was nuts. I mean, beside the 2 block punts and the scoop and score, there was also a pick 2 on a failed 2-point conversion, which is like, it's like a 99-yard pick too. Like, talk about like the hardest way to get 2 points in a game. You got to run the whole length of the field to get it. It almost doesn't even feel worth it. And as you said, Derrick Henry balled out 102 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he did leave this game with a concussion. Tajay Spears looked great. He had 16 carries for 75 yards, but ultimately Gardner Minshew just kind of carved him up. He had 2 receivers with with at least 100 yards. He had 100 yards to Alec Pierce and 105 to Michael Pittman, both of which had touchdowns. And that was kind of the ball game, really, between Minshew and those 2 receivers, because the whole, Jonathan Taylor's out. Zach Moss is going to slot in and do just like he did before. He didn't. He only had like 51 yards. He didn't look that great. Colts were not able to run the ball very well. The other big loss for the Titans was Jeffrey Simmons, one of their most important defensive players, left the game as well, which obviously helped the Colts to win this thing. I mean, this division is now pretty interesting and tighter than we expected.
Yeah, man. But the next game was certified
a shit bowl, brought to you by XLEX.
Shit bowl of the year. I could not believe this shit. We bet and won the bet on this game because we bet the Chargers will win by 5 at 5.5, right?
I laughed so hard because like at the end, when the early window comes to a close, I pull up the analog flip 'em and pick 'em, and I start to mark it. And then I look at the bets that we made. And when I saw that we had picked the Chargers to win by 5.5 and that this game ends literally 6-0, I think I texted you. I was like, this is fucking absurd. This is so stupid. This is so dumb. This was the shit bowl to end all shit bowls. 6-0, you guys. This was terrible. Bailey Zappi was bad. I mean, I guess you could say that. I mean, the defense has had a day, clearly. What's his name? What's the guy's name from the Chargers who's so good? Khalil Mack had a good game. Khalil Mack had a great game. There was one play where they sacked Bailey Zappi where it was like the 2 ends meet and let's go meet at the quarterback, which is always kind of like fun to watch. Bailey Zappi was terrible.
How bad is Mack, man? Well, how bad is this 3rd string quarterback? At least isn't he supposed to be mobile? Maybe they need a mobile quarterback.
Is it Malik Cunningham? Is that his name?
Yeah. I don't know. The Patriots did make history though, because they lost 10-6 to the Colts, 10-7 to the Giants, and 6-0 to the Chargers, and that means they lost 3 games while holding teams to 10 or fewer points.
Right, and I heard that yesterday.
I forget the stat. I think it was 58-3 or something like that. They're the only team to do that since 1938.
Yeah, I think the last team to do this was something like
Chicago Cardinals.
Yeah, back when the Cardinals were in Chicago. Back when the Cardinals were in Chicago and they were owned by the mafia. They were owned by a guy who worked for Al Capone.
His name is I looked it up here. His name is Tommy DeVito.
Actually, you know who it was?
Who was it?
It's the grandfather, like it's still in the family. It's the Bidwell family.
Bidwell, okay.
Michael Bidwell, who owns the Cardinals now, it was his grandfather who owned the team back then.
Man, but back then they lost some games 10-0, 7-0, 6-0, and 7-3.
Yeah.
But that's in 1938 when you probably weren't really throwing out routes and shit.
That was before the legalization of the forward pass.
Fucking trash ass Patriots, man. It's so great to see them being so bad and to waste such a good defense. This defense held the Chargers with all of their firepower and this supposedly, generational quarterback to 6 points. I mean, this is one of those kissing your sister games, man. I don't have anything else to say about that, man. Fuck them.
Yeah. Yeah. Terrible football.
You want to move on to the next one or you got more?
100%. Like, I'm already sick to my stomach just even like talking about that game. It's horrible.
The Saints out here trying to make an upset. The Lions were beating that ass early in the game, and then the Saints started like, wait a minute. I will take Carr out, and we'll bring in Jameis. See what Jameis can do for you.
The Lions ultimately, the Lions fucked around and very nearly found out because they were blowing out the Saints. I mean, this was like they were the first quarter. I mean, they dropped 21 points on the Saints in the first quarter alone.
Yeah.
I mean, it was between. I think they had a touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown. David Montgomery had a touchdown, and this fucking rookie tight end, Sam Laporta.
Yeah.
I mean, he's on the verge of breaking a rookie tight end record as well. On pace to beat Mike Ditka's record.
Oh shit.
9 receptions for 140 yards and a touchdown.
God damn.
I mean, that's some shit. So they were running away with this thing, and then the Saints started to climb back into it. That being said, that I actually do feel bad for Derek Carr. This whole Derek Carr experience seems like it has fully soured down in New Orleans. Yeah. One of the things that I noticed when I was watching the game is that he would leave the field so that they could do a Taysom Hill play, right? And then every time Carr would trot back onto the field when the play was over, the entire Superdome crowd would boo.
Damn.
I mean, not that I'm surprised. Saints fans are the worst. But yeah, Carr.
He gives you the best chance of all the quarterbacks on your roster. I mean, you want Taysom Hill to keep playing? We saw what that looked like.
I guess in all fairness to Saints fans, maybe they're not necessarily booing Derek Carr. Maybe they're just booing the organization, which I would agree with. Like, you should boo the organization. Because I don't really see Derek Carr as being that much of an upgrade from Andy Dalton, who they had in the room last year. Yeah. Like, I think Andy Dalton would have done better than this, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Jameis Winston is at least exciting. It gave you some fireworks. It might make you lose some sleep because of stress, but
I mean, yeah, Derek Carr. I feel bad for Derek Carr because he's out here literally putting his body on the line. I mean, he leaves this game. I mean, when he left the game, like when they put the thing up on the screen, it's like, what was it? It said shoulder rib concussion. Like, it was like I was like, take your pick. Like, which reason do you want for him leaving the game? I mean, the guy's just absolutely getting hammered back there. Yeah.
He's like, all I wanted was Devontae Adams, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's all I wanted, man. And now I'm over here in New Orleans.
It's I don't know. I mean, look, the Lions are 9-3 for the first time since 1962. That's the good news. First time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, for Christ's sakes. That's like
I love when they throw these out. Man.
That is crazy.
Since before Kennedy was shot.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the year Marilyn Monroe died, actually.
Oh wow!
But I'd be a little worried if I was a Lions fan. They're on this weird roller coaster at the moment.
Yeah, they don't seem consistent enough to pull this thing off.
Yeah, I mean, they do make it fun to watch. I'll say that, and they're a fun team to root for. And I certainly appreciate the fact that they beat the Saints and, created a little space for my Falcons to sit a little more comfortably on the perch above everyone in the NFC South, which obviously brings us to our next game.
Yes.
A complete and utter barn burner, 13-8.
A shit bowl, brought to you by XLEX.
It was a shootout.
A shit-out.
A shit out. Yeah, you're right. It was kind of a shit out. A good old-fashioned slobber knocker. Remember slobber knocker?
I remember slobber knocker.
Mm-hmm. This feels like a slobber knocker. Hey, Desmond Ridder did not turn the ball over. I could say that. He was 12 for 27, 121 yards. That's not great. He threw a really nice touchdown pass to, I don't know. I guess we're just like, we don't care that much about Kyle Pitts. We're going to throw touchdowns to Mecole Pruitt instead. It's a great catch, though.
Is there Kyle Pitts bus talk?
Oh, yeah. You know what? Actually, no. It's not really Kyle Pitts bus talk. I think most people are putting it on Arthur Smith. Most people are putting it on him because there's such a long stretch of the season. Well, okay, for the 2 years.
Pick? Was he on the team?
Mm-hmm.
Was Arthur Smith? Okay.
Pretty sure that was his first year. So you have the 2 years, two and this season of Kyle Pitts, plus this year with Bijan Robinson. Arthur Smith has shown that he's not always great at putting the ball in the hands of his best players. So I think Kyle Pitts has largely dodged the talk about busts, mostly because of Arthur Smith.
Okay.
And to be fair, in this game, obviously we're going up against the Tim Boyle-led Jets. So that wasn't that scary. And then Tim Boyle gets benched for Trevor Siemian, also not scary.
That's who should start for them. I don't know, man.
I mean, of course, as a Falcons fan, I just kind of assume that somehow this cocktail of Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian would equal an L for the Falcons somehow. It didn't, though. I mean, the defense played great. I'll say that. The Falcons defense played really, really well, as did the Jets defense. The weather was terrible, had a huge effect on the game, which was true.
The Jets defense, man. Oof.
All the way from, it was really funny to see, like, every game that was happening on the East Coast, there must have been a massive storm that was affecting all the way down to Miami, too. It was raining in Miami, was it not?
Yeah, but it rains every day in Miami.
No, but I mean, it was like there was some kind of weather system. Like it was like all the way from Miami up to New York and New England. Like it was just dreadful, dreadful, dreadful weather.
It's because they don't recycle in America.
God is punishing them for not recycling. Punishing them.
God is just peeing all over everybody.
The funniest part of this game was when the Jets, was it the first? Well, that was the first. Yeah, the first points to be scored in this game was the Jets getting a safety.
Man, that's the worst safety. That's the deepest safety I've ever seen. Besides,
it was a terrible call,
Dan
too.
Orlovsky stepping out of the back of the end zone.
Yeah,
this was the worst.
It was a terrible call. It was never going to work.
What do you pitch sweep? Like, what is this? Why are you messing around, man? Get out of the end zone.
Yeah, exactly.
And the left tackle just gets pushed all the way back into him, and he just falls.
Yeah, the offensive line just completely collapsed. For a good stretch in this game, the score was 2-0 to the Jets, and I was like, "What if we lose this game 2-0? Wouldn't that be hilarious? Like that would be a new level of like losing as an art form.
What are you,
lose
Patriots?
This game 2-0. Yeah, exactly. What are we, the Patriots? Fortunately for us, they did manage to score a few more points. They had the one touchdown, and then the rest of it was all Younghoe Koo. We couldn't run the ball. They couldn't run the ball. We got some turnovers too. We couldn't do diddly poo offensively. We couldn't make a first down. We couldn't run the ball. We got a pick out of Tim Boyle. We forced Dalvin Cook to fumble. Trevor Siemian fumbled the ball away as well. So we won the turnover battle, and it was just kind of it was a defensive slobber knocker, and somehow we managed to come out on top because the Jets don't really have an offense. And now they have this weird controversy there at the moment, which I'm not really sure I understand. I just read about it this morning.
What's the controversy?
Controversy is that the Jets, according to these two reporters at The Athletic, the Jets have decided they're going to go back to Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson has said, no, thank you.
What?
I don't really. However, very quickly, Robert Saleh called a press conference and said, that's ridiculous. If Zach Wilson had said, no, I don't want to start, he wouldn't be here. So I don't know where they're getting that information, but it's not true.
Okay.
But it's not really unlike the Athletic is not known for some, they're not known for one of these goofy organizations who just says stuff without some source to back it up. So it's kind of an ongoing confusion here. I'm not really sure what's going on.
Ooh, we gotta keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, so we'll see. But again,
we gotta hit up his mom. Zach Wilson's mom.
I have her. She's in my DMs. We have communicated before.
1 degree.
Yeah, I mean, she and I are like this. We're super tight.
Try to get her on the pod.
She would never come on this pod.
We'd be like, "Come on, man, we did this for you."
Wow,
man. The shock of the weekend for me was the Cardinals putting up 24 on the Steelers. And when I first saw it, I was like, "Damn, how did that happen? How did the Steelers lose to the Cardinals?" And then I started watching the game, and I saw Kenny Pickett get hurt with a Derek Carr type of injury, face, elbow, knuckle, everything, and he's out. And Trubisky is just a loser. I don't know what else to say, man. Trubisky's a loser.
I love how the first thing he did when he came into the game, Trubisky, was fumble the snap. That was hilarious.
It's basic, man.
Don't get no better than that, baby.
Just do your fucking the first part.
This was one of the weirder games on the East Coast with a massive weather delay. Like they two massive weather delays. I think it wasn't just rain; it was also lightning and shit. So they actually cleared the stadium. Like the fans had to leave and everything. Ultimately, the Steelers proved that firing Matt Canada is not some kind of magic wand for their offense. I was not buying this. Last week, a lot of people were saying like, "Oh, they went over 400 yards. They fixed everything." And I was like, "Yeah, but they only scored 16 points. Yeah. Like they went over 400 yards and they only managed to score 16 points. There's still a problem there." And it showed up in this game too. And to be fair, Kenny Pickett, he got injured fairly late in this game. Yeah. You know what I mean? He was there for most of it.
He only threw 10 passes. 70 yards.
I know.
So many, man, this is the worst year of quarterbacking I've ever seen in my lifetime. Since I've been truly following football. Yeah. And I came up during the running game. You know what I'm saying? During when it was run first. When the guys like Sean Alexander would have a year of like the premier player on the team. When running backs would be the MVP. When you had your Priest Holmes years and stuff like that, with these guys that go like for 3 years, Terrell Davis and stuff like that. And I still haven't seen quarterbacking like this. We're putting up fucking 7 for 10, 70 yards.
It's pretty bad.
117 yards for Trubisky.
So Kenny Pickett, his big problem was that he left the game with an ankle injury. Apparently, he has already had ankle surgery yesterday. He had this this tightrope surgery, which it has a pretty quick turnaround. It's kind of hard to say how much time he's going to miss, but they're not going to put him on injured reserve because they think he could be back. Like, I don't know. They're basically saying 2, 3, 4 weeks. So I don't know. I don't know when he's going to come back, but regardless, they're going to have to roll with Mitch Trubisky for the majority of the season. I thought the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to fall out of the playoff picture anyway. And now I'm convinced that they will. The interesting thing about this game is that it was 3-3 for a very long time. And then the game kind of turned on its head. The Cardinals got a huge goal line stand, turned the ball over on downs, which means they get the ball at the 1 yard line. And then Baby Yoda puts together a 15 play, 99 yard touchdown drive. James Conner was balling. back in Pittsburgh where he used to play. Rookie tight end Trey McBride was phenomenal as well. And this drive essentially allowed the Cardinals to snatch all the momentum and just dominate this game for the rest of the way.
Yeah, man.
It was impressive.
I'm looking to see how the Steelers are going to bounce back from this, man.
I don't.
What kind of game plan do you have with Mitch Trubisky?
I don't see it. I really don't. I think they will. I predict they will fall out of the playoffs. I mean, shit. Even the Bengals now suddenly have a chance to sneak into the playoffs after what happened last night. We'll get to that in a little while, but
yeah, man.
I mean, yeah.
Next game is the Dolphins play the Commanders. Dolphins won 45-15, and then after that we got the Broncos are playing the. You're right. We'll talk more about the Dolphins, the number one team in the AFC. Miami Dolphins came out. Fucking Tyreek Hill is trying to solidify his run as the first wide receiver to get MVP, man.
Yeah.
Of the league, as far as I can remember. I don't remember a wide receiver ever getting it. But he might get that shit. He's 500 yards away from 2,000 yards.
Yeah. And especially considering, as you just so eloquently stated, the poor nature of quarterback play this year. And I said it a few weeks ago. I was like, given the quarterback situation in the NFL this year, I just feel like this is the year we're going to see somebody, a non-quarterback, maybe have a real legitimate shot at winning the MVP. I mean, Tyreek, it's like, you know what's crazy about this is that they were talking about this on the broadcast that Tua has one of the quickest release times in the NFL, less than 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And yet this motherfucker, Tyreek Hill, he's already 30 yards down the field within 2 seconds and behind the secondary and on his way to scoring a massive 78-yard fucking touchdown.
On that one, he can run routes too. Like he breaks that motherfucker down, got him on his hip, and he's gone. And Tua saw it immediately because Reek does the stutter step, then he's gone, and the safety's in the middle of the field, frozen by Tua's eye discipline, and all of a sudden the ball's out, it's gone. Oh, it's great. I mean, it's funny that before the year, every analyst had the caveat if Tua can stay healthy. And he's one of the only quarterbacks in the league that hasn't been hurt at all.
Yeah.
If Tua can stay healthy, the dude is balling too. Like,
well, obviously your offensive line has been really, really good all year. Not only
beat up. The offensive line has had injuries throughout the year too. I think that's on Mike McDaniel. Sorry to cut you off.
Not only protecting Tua, but also allowing this run game to be a real revelation this year.
Yeah. Mostert is third in rushing in the league.
And I think, doesn't he lead the league in touchdowns?
16 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's amazing. Achane was back. He had 73 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was nice to see because he returned. His return from injury has been a little sketchy. You were kind of worried, like what's going to happen with this guy. But I feel like this was the game where it was like, okay, yeah, he's back.
We lost another piece though.
Yeah.
On that one score, the Cardinals. I mean, the Commanders had that score. Jerome Baker, you can see his knee get destroyed by his own player trying to stop the touchdown. I mean, he did stop the touchdown successfully. Brandon Jones, who just got back from injury, but the Dolphins' defense really coming on, but losing players. 2 very important players down 2 weeks in a row. So hopefully they can.
And that's also another part of why I think the Dolphins have got, like, especially lately, their defense has been really, really stout and difficult to deal with. They were all over Sam Howell. They gave up a couple of big plays, but nothing too damaging.
Van Ginkel was balling.
Van Ginkel.
I love that dude.
Unbelievable.
More on him later.
Pick 6, right?
Yes.
Unbelievable. Just went up there and got it. Just give me that shit.
But I have nothing else to say about that game because it's just you get used to it, you know?
Because you're just so excited to talk about Houston, Texas, Denver Broncos. Just can't wait to get there.
I'm just excited, man.
This was also another weird one. This was Texans kind of looked like they were cruising.
Mm-hmm.
Full credit to the Broncos for clawing back. Obviously,
almost won it.
Too little, too late.
One that interception was like they were in the red zone for the victory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Russ makes. I mean, it was the right read. It was just a great defensive play. So kudos to the Texans, man. Just 7-5.
To me, I think one of the things that I took away from this game specifically was watching this rookie D lineman Will Anderson Jr. for the Texans. He was just a game wrecker. He was out there just I feel like he was primarily the one responsible for why it took so long for the Broncos to score points. Bad news for the Texans. Tank Dell leaves this game with a broken fibula.
Yeah.
Huge loss. This connection between C.J. Stroud and Tank Dell has been the story of the league for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Luckily, as far as the Texans are concerned, in this game in particular, you still got Nico Collins, who had 9 receptions for 191 yards and a touchdown, which is just unbelievable. But look, the Russell Wilson performance is always, for me, is kind of hard to unpack. In one way, he did play his ass off late and damn near won the game. Great performance in the final minutes, but he did throw 3 interceptions in the fourth quarter. One was right at the end of the third quarter, but he threw 3 second half interceptions, including the game clinching pick in the end that you referred to. It's just, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's
man.
Yeah. And they missed a real opportunity, obviously, in a week where, as we'll get to it, the Chiefs dropped a game as well. So,
yeah.
I mean, shout out to the Texans, honestly, because I feel like, given things are looking a little shaky at the top of the AFC South with the Jaguars, we don't know how bad the Trevor Lawrence injury is. We don't know how much, if he's going to miss significant time. But now you have the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts both sitting at 7-5, only 1 game behind first place in the AFC South. So it's things could get real interesting over there.
Spicy down there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got an NFC shootout between the Bucs and the Panthers.
Yeah.
Came down to Mike Evans Mike Evans quietly having a Hall of Fame career. He's got him a Super Bowl, and he's got 10 seasons with 1,000 yards. I didn't know that.
It's crazy.
I didn't know that. That's so shout out to him. That's probably the only thing I can take away from this game. It seems like these are 2 teams that'll be watching the playoffs like us from their goddamn couches. So definitely the Panthers are officially eliminated from the playoff race, and the Bucs are 5-7. And I don't know, man. I guess in the NFC maybe, but they're gonna have to win some more games.
They're only 1 game behind the Falcons, and we play each other next week. So
they're still,
they still have a shot. It turns out that the first coach fired thing doesn't really mean shit if you're a really bad football team like the Carolina Panthers.
Well, it's not technically. It's not the first coach fired.
Not the first. I didn't mean for. I meant coach fired. Yeah, first game after the coach fired is what I meant. I mean, the problem in Carolina remains the same. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to suggest that Bryce Young is a bust. It's too early to say that. But what I can say is that, and also I feel like it would be unfair to call him a bust until you have the opportunity to actually build a team around this guy. You've spent the last 2 years gutting this team for draft picks.
Yep.
And you're just, the rebuild, it's not done. You're not done. You're remodeling the kitchen, but you're not done yet. It's not done. Bryce Young is out here. Their running back room is Chuba Hubbard and Miles Sanders. Pathetic. And wide receivers, you've got Jonathan Mingo, who's very promising. I think could get better. DJ Chark. Are you kidding me? And then a fucking 75-year-old Adam Thielen. This is not I mean, he's had a great year. I don't want to begrudge him. Like he's had a good year, but this is not a sustainable offense for me.
And you can't do it if you keep changing divisions. Like
exactly,
you got coach fired, another coach fired, and it's like, how are you gonna have all of these assets and then keep shifting division? It's just
you got to give him
top down.
You got to give one guy time to build something. As much as I don't want Arthur Smith to be my coach at this point, I at least respect what the organization has done. Right? They were like, look, you're inheriting a shit show. We're going to give you a couple of years to put this thing together. You can't just fire Frank Reich after 11 games because he can't win now with this shit fucking roster. I'm sorry. But again, David Tepper's a fucking moron.
The Browns kind of tried to put up a fight, but the Rams stomped that shit out and are now 6-6.
How about Joe Flacco?
Joe Flacco, man, coming out there, he always looks really worried. Like he's like scared about, like he's thinking about his tax situation or something. Does he look like that? Like just, oh shit, I forgot to sign my fucking W-2.
He looked pretty good early in the game.
Yeah, he did. I'm just in his face and his helmet. He just looked.
Yeah, but I just mean like he
better than any quarterback they've put out there this year.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was making fun of this. I was like thinking to myself, Joe Flacco in 2023. What the fuck are we doing here? This is ridiculous. But he looked really, really good in the beginning. Very nicely weighted touch passes that he was kind of floating in there. Perfectly thrown balls. He seemed to have a real connection with Amari Cooper early on in the game. But the Rams eventually came to life and decided not to embarrass themselves.
Yes.
And it took a while. I mean, this game was pretty close.
Yeah.
Late. I think the score suggests that this was a blowout, but this game was like, this was a 1-score game until the fourth quarter, and then the Rams put up 16 points in the fourth quarter. Puka Nacua looked fantastic. I think he left the game with a slight injury, but I think he's going to be okay.
Oh, good.
105 yards and a touchdown. Cooper Kupp had a touchdown. Kieran Williams was out here balling. And Matthew Stafford, my man, former Bulldog, I'm telling you, he looked really good in this game.
Are we done anointing the Browns as the 85 Bears? Remember that? Like 2 weeks ago?
Oh, yeah. I think it's starting to...
talking about the best defense since blah, 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 since the Ravens and all that shit. And then they gave up 29 points to the Broncos, and now they've given up 36 points to the Rams. Let's pump the brakes, all right, on this hyperbole.
It's starting to fall apart. I mean, they're dealing with some injuries and whatnot. And also, I think one of the real problems is that you cannot continue to play at that level on defense if your offense can't give you some time to
breathe,
to catch your breath. You know what I mean? It's like, so yeah, this is also, I expect the Browns to fall out of the playoffs as well.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think we got 5 games left.
Yeah, man.
So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what their schedule is for the rest of the way, but I don't know. I don't expect to see them in the playoffs.
I kind of want to look at their schedule because they're playing the Jaguars, who don't have a quarterback anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Then they play the Bears. Then they play Texans, Jets, Bengals. They could win 4 of those games.
It's possible.
So we can't count them out yet. They got Joey Flack.
Jay Flack
out here.
Jay Flack. Oh. That's Super Bowl winning quarterback right there.
It's Super Bowl MVP, right?
Yeah.
Just throw it up.
Mm-hmm. He did that. He tried that, to be fair, and he got picked off. He just threw it up, and he got picked off.
Speaking of throw up, the Eagles offense.
That was a great segue, actually.
No, we had us. I was so excited for this game, the game of the week, the 49ers and the Eagles. But then, and it was tight at first. They were like, there was a defensive battle at first, and then something clicked, and the 49ers were like, oh, yeah, we're better than you, and beat the dog snot out of the Eagles for the rest of the year.
The Eagles owned the first quarter on offense and defense. And you're right. It did. It felt like the 49ers just like flipped a switch and just took over the game and scored 6 straight touchdown drives. Big time statement win for the 49ers. They exposed the Cowboys a few weeks ago, and now they've exposed the Eagles, pants down, no undies, tiny micro penis flapping in the wind. Eagles just could not keep up with the 49ers physically or mentally. Besides the 49ers D balling out in the secondary, stifling the run game, I felt like Hurts was holding on to the ball for too long.
Yeah, man.
To be honest.
He might have been a little confused.
And I guess
a tush push in there.
I mean, I guess you could say that that's because everyone was covered, but honestly, the coaching staff should have picked up on this and figured out some kind of way to adjust. I mean, we've been giving a lot of credit to Mr. Each and Everyone in the building for his ability to adjust in game all year. But this time it didn't really work out for him.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How much credit can you give on a percentage basis? What percentage of this victory, this blowout victory of what everyone said was the number 1 team in football, how much of this credit goes to Kyle Shanahan?
I mean, my instincts are to be as petty as possible here. Like, I could point to and shine a light on the, offense and defensive coordinators. I could shine a light on the fact that, when you have a player like Deebo Samuel who can catch the ball on a 5-yard pass and then take it 48 yards to the house, I could point to the fact that you have Christian McCaffrey, who might be a legitimate MVP player. Like, that has nothing to do with Kyle Shanahan.
How did he get on the team?
In all honesty, like, I gotta say, I don't know how much. Whatever. I cannot pretend that Kyle Shanahan does not deserve credit for beating the
breaks off.
Beating the break. I mean, they didn't just like beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they beat the living snot out of them.
Yes.
So
Hurts didn't even finish the game. He just sat on the sideline and they put the backup in.
I don't
wave the white flag.
I got nothing. Checkmate this week, anyway.
Yeah, man.
We'll see. I mean, this game. One of the more interesting aspects of this game is that it got real feisty.
I can't wait to see this in the playoffs, bro.
There were a bunch of fights. These two
Big
teams
Dom. You heard about Big Dom?
Clearly hate each other, and I'm here for it.
Did you see the situation?
I want to talk about this.
Okay.
So you got, for those of you who didn't see it, you had Drake Greenlaw. I don't even really think. Pistol. I got to say, okay, Devonta Smith catches the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Two 49ers kind of converge.
Mm-hmm.
Devonta Smith is fighting for extra yardage.
Yeah.
So I don't even think Greenlaw should have been penalized for the tackle. They said it was unnecessary roughness, but he wrestles and twists him down onto the ground. I honestly don't see. I get why they threw the flag, but I didn't necessarily agree with it. It was right by the Eagles bench. And then all of a sudden, this giant 400-pound man decides to insert himself into the situation and kind of lays hands on Dre Greenlaw. And I don't know what he's saying to him, but he's obviously saying something to him and pushes him back. And then Dre Greenlaw reaches. Some people are saying that Greenlaw threw a punch. I wouldn't call that a punch.
No, he was emulating holding a pistol in his hand.
Was that what he was doing?
He's doing like this, yeah. He's like,
okay. Interesting. That makes more sense. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, he's emulating holding a pistol and puts it in his face like, "You're dead, boy." It was some gangster shit. And Greenlaw is maybe one of the top 5 scariest players in the NFL.
Oh, 100%.
Big Dom and Big Dom out here. They said the guy's name is Big Dom. Out here supposed to be a fair fight.
So the situation played out like this: that whole scuffle takes place, and then as it's happening, we learn that this gentleman that Jonathan keeps referring to as Big Dom is the head of Eagles security.
Yeah.
This is not a person, in my opinion, who, first of all, he's standing there on the sidelines, and as Greenlaw makes the tackle, he's there like sort of, trying to encourage the referee to acknowledge that this is a penalty and throw a flag. And then when you find out this guy's not a coach, the head of security, why is the head of security standing right there on the edge of the sidelines is my first question. Second question is, why are you allowing him to argue with the referee? This man has nothing to do. He's not a coach. He's not a coordinator. His job is to protect the team off the field. And also from if the fans decide to,
he should be looking the other way.
He should not be
always in danger of getting his legs taken out by a player flying out of bounds because he's not looking. He needs to be looking out in the stands, making sure there's no threats like that.
This is not a person who is really, as far as I understand, by league rules, is not really someone who should be inserting himself into anything related to the game itself. So they eject Dre Greenlaw first for putting his hands in this dude's face. This took 10, 15 minutes to play itself out. And then obviously Shanahan's beside himself. He's angry, yelling at the refs about the situation. And then that leads to them ejecting this Eagles security guy from the game as well.
If you watch closely on the replay, when Shanahan's yelling, you can see the silver spoon fall out of his mouth.
I know, exactly. To be fair, I thought it was really cool that Sirianni, after the game, obviously Shanahan had a lot to say about this situation after the game, and Sirianni could have said a lot of things, but he basically agreed with Shanahan. He said, our head of security should not have been he shouldn't have done what he did. He shouldn't have been there. He shouldn't have been in that situation. That was a mistake. So we are still waiting. Obviously, the league.
It's a weird one to punish. How do you punish? Do you fine the team? You know what I mean? Ban the guy from the game. It's what do you do?
Well, the other weird thing too is that because he inserted, the only reason Dre Greenlaw gets ejected is because this guy inserted himself into the situation. So now, not only is it unfair in the sense that you've penalized Greenlaw and ejected him from the game. He's a player. Ejecting a player versus ejecting the head of security is not an even thing to me. And now we're going to have, obviously, there's going to be fines coming from the NFL.
Yeah.
And I think everybody's kind of waiting to see how that's going to play out. Obviously, to the Philadelphia Eagles fans, this guy, Big Dom, everybody knew who he was anyway in Philadelphia. But now he's going to turn in. He instantly became a Philly legend at that moment.
In passing, I want to mention that the Eagles fans were snowball bombing some 49ers fans that were there and watched to support their team as they trounced the Eagles. And it's just
actually, so I thought the same thing.
Okay.
Turns out that was a clip from several years ago that somebody reposted.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
I thought that too. But then when I looked at it, I realized it was a clip from several years ago. It's still true that the Eagles fans are the worst people on the face of the planet. 100%.
Shout out to my boy Marco. He listens to us. He's an Eagles fan.
Even though, obviously, I feel conflicted. I think Eagles fans are horrible, but the team is full of Georgia Bulldogs, and I kind of want them to win a Super Bowl. So, I'm conflicted.
They've always been my secondary team. I've been a fan of them since they're a team that gave back in the day when it was unpopular, they gave a black quarterback a shot and a black coach.
Yeah, that's true.
Shout out to them.
They gave Michael Vick another chance after he got out of prison. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, they had a fat coach too. Mm-hmm. It is a team of brotherly love for real.
So again, this win obviously shook up the NFC. Something serious. Next up, the Eagles play the Cowboys in Dallas, and then they'll be playing the Seahawks in Seattle the week after that. If they're going to keep that number 1 seed, the Eagles are really going to have to work for it. I'm kind of starting to feel the 49ers might swipe it from them.
I think Dallas could mess around if they beat them. Because Dallas is 9-3. If they beat them next week, they're both 10-3.
More than anything, I just hope that the football gods will allow us to see these two teams play each other again in the playoffs.
Yes.
I mean, how great is that going to be?
It's going to be dope. Happens? You know, Big Dom will be on the sidelines, far away. Sirianni's a class act, by the way. I mean, these two coaches, they're going to be going at it for a long time. You got to be happy about that. These two coaches have the job security of a Swede after working for 6 months. So,
if only they knew how easy it was. Just move to Sweden.
Go to Sweden. Keep your job and work hard for 6 months, and you good, man. Never get fired, man. You know how long the national team coach should have been fired? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God.
All right, final game. No, 2 games left. Chiefs-Packers, man. Upset of the week. Mm-hmm. That was a crazy one.
I am so upset.
This was crazy.
I watched this game. I woke up and caught it, and then I watched it from the beginning, and then I just new function on DAZN that I really like is that if you're watching on the TV, you could just push the fast forward button and it jumps 10 seconds. So I just after each play, I just push it 3 times and I jump 30 seconds forward.
And it goes right to the snap.
Right to the snap, pretty much.
Yeah, that's great.
I love the new function. But I watched this game and Jordan Love, man. Jordan Love is they showed a clip of Favre passing unorthodox, on his toes, off the ground, how you're not supposed to do it. And then Rodgers doing it, and then Love doing it the same way. It's did they pull this shit off? We'll see.
I don't know. It's very interesting. I mean, that back of the end zone TD pass to Christian Watson was a work of art.
Yes.
It was fantastic. Jordan,
and faith in your player, confidence. It's man.
3 total touchdowns, no picks. Unfortunately for them, Christian Watson appears to have tweaked his hamstring.
Yeah, it looked like it.
In what might have been his best game of the year. Yeah. Jordan Love had an amazing game, and I don't want to take anything away from him, but I feel like we can't really move away from this game without talking about the officiating and how it was an absolute joke. To be fair, let's be fair about this. The Chiefs were in a situation at the end of this game where they needed not just the touchdown, but they needed the 2-point conversion. So I'm not trying to say that they were definitely going to win this game. I'm not trying to say that the Packers didn't deserve to win this game. But so obviously the most obvious pass interference I've ever seen in my life with the DB literally piggyback riding the receiver. No flag.
Saints fans do not agree with you.
That one was pretty bad too. Yeah, I remember that one. But the thing is that the no flag, it kind of felt like a makeup call or a makeup non-call for the play before that, which was a late hit on Mahomes. That was definitely not a late hit. Shouldn't have been a penalty, but they called it. I mean, he was in bounds. Yeah. Mahomes is known for tightrope in the sidelines. He's also known for reaching the ball out. Yeah. And the guy who hit him after the game made a very good point. He said, I was trying to stop his forward progress, because if I can stop his forward progress, then that means the clock continues to run.
Exactly.
Very legitimate thing.
Another call they missed.
Exactly.
Later in the game.
And then there was the one where they ruled it was a catch that was ruled a fumble, which led to to Pacheco getting into a fight, and then he got ejected from the game. And it's like none of that stuff would have happened had they made the right call from the first.
Good point.
It was just like there were so many things that happened. Like this game was like just a normal, entertaining football game until the last couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden the refs inserted themselves into the game and just played far too central a role in how it all ended. It was a travesty. It was embarrassing, absolutely embarrassing.
Like you said, it was a good game too.
And I think it continues to kind of put in the spotlight that the NFL has a very real problem with officiating, because this wasn't the only game. There were lots of games this weekend where the officiating was just absolute trash.
And the NFL's probably like, God damn it, on a Sunday night, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's watching. And this happens when everybody's watching, and man, no good at all, man.
That being said, Green Bay Packers deserve to win this football game.
Yeah, they played better.
They were the better team on the field. They played great. They beat the Chiefs fair and square. And, you know, now it looks like, I mean, nobody's out here saying the Chiefs are obviously still going to make the playoffs, but the one thing that's kind of interesting about this is that this will be the first year where they're probably going to have to play playoff games away from Arrowhead Stadium. They have normally had the comfort of maintaining the 1 seed and having the Super Bowl playoff, or having the playoffs run through Kansas City, and that's not going to happen this year. So
and they have one of the few stadiums left that have it's like actual home field advantage. Because you know that's kind of gone away a bit.
And now the Packers are back in the playoff picture, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
It seems like everybody is but the Panthers. The NFL, besides the Panthers, are in the playoff picture.
Yeah.
Final game. Sad game, not just because the Bengals won, but because another top quarterback looks to be done for an extended amount of time. I don't know if you saw the injury.
I did.
That's the thing everybody comes out of this talking about. That and Christian Kirk got hurt early in the game, which ruined our bet, by the way.
Fucked up our parlay.
Fucked our parlay up. Christian Kirk gets hurt. His backup receiver, or the guy comes in to replace him, and Trevor Lawrence, T-Law, was trying to do a quick route to this guy who runs the wrong route. So Lawrence has to kind of reset, and the lineman steps on his ankle because of this.
His own lineman
steps on his ankle because he had to reset and figure it out because the guy runs the wrong fucking route. So I know he's just like, God damn it. It's like the chain reaction to all of the like domino effect or whatever. But then he gets rolled up on after his ankle gets stepped on, and then he falls backwards awkwardly on his knee. So he could have a double injury in that same leg. Hopefully he's like flexible enough to not have any structural damage in his knee, but it did not look good, man. And then they didn't bring a card out. They have images. I saw the images of him walking, like being led with guys on each arm all the way into the tunnel. It's like, get him a cart. Why are you putting any weight on the leg, man? Let's see. It sucks, man. And he was slamming his helmet on the ground like he knew. He tried to walk off the field and he couldn't. So it looks really bad, man. But Jacksonville looked good, man. He's one of the best honeypot throwers, as I always mention. He threw a few of those. It's a back shoulder. He was looking good. And then, Browning was out there holding it down. And despite a lackluster performance from Zach Taylor, who got to play the anthem for him. Return of the Whack, man. Whack Taylor out here tried to lose this game.
This was so absurd. I woke up this morning, and usually what I do on Tuesday morning, I wake up, I open up, to see who won the game, and then I look at the box score before, just out of curiosity. What can I learn from just looking at these numbers? And I could not for the life of me understand. Jake, first of all, I was shocked. I was like, holy shit, the Bengals won this game. And then I'm like, God, Jake Browning is 32 for 37, 354 yards and a touchdown. That is some next level passing accuracy.
Yeah.
On what planet do you think that it's necessary to allow Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase to throw a pass in this game?
What was so dumb? What are you doing? He's balling. I think at the time he was 17 for 19 or something like that. It was crazy. They were talking about how he's not throwing incomplete passes.
Why?
And then they do the second wide receiver pass that ends up getting intercepted at like the 30-yard line. I was like, what is this man doing?
That Tyler Boyd interception was like almost as bad as the
the Patriots
almost as bad as that one from last year. I mean, he throws it across the field directly into the hands of Josh Allen. That was hilarious and just really, really dumb, I thought. Jake Browning was balling. Just let him keep going.
Overthinking, man. Overthinking.
I mean, he had an amazing game. Yeah. Obviously, he linked up with Jamar Chase, who caught 11 of his 12 targets for 149 yards and a touchdown. One of them was obviously the big 76-yard touchdown.
It was balanced. It was a balanced attack too, man. As I watched it, I was like, you know what? Maybe this is Zach here, not Wack. Like he just got a good game plan. And then just got in his own way with a couple boneheaded things. And then I thought the timeout to set them up to kick the field goal was really stupid. Even I watched the Manning cast, too. That was fun to watch, man. And they had Chad Ochocinco on that part, too. Tua came on playing the guitar and shit. It was nice. It's a fun show, man. Tua came on playing the guitar, and then Peyton Manning started singing about what was happening in the game.
That's hilarious.
He was like, they're offsides. It was pretty fun. Manning was like, why did he call the timeout? There were 29 seconds left, and they have no timeouts left, so they got tackled in bounds, so they're gonna try to run their kickers and the kicking team on. It's like bound for a mistake to happen, like a false start, or like maybe not get it off, or they rush and he can't get the hold right, or the snap is bad. There's so much stuff that can go wrong. He took all of that away by calling a timeout when you already don't trust your quarterback enough to not have two wide receiver passes. So you think he's going to drive down the field after they make the field goal with 29 seconds left? Now 24 seconds left? It's so stupid, man. And they got the field goal. They got to regroup and kick calmly to tie the game up and go into overtime. So I thought that was stupid too. But other than that, it was a great setup for Jake Browning, who even was throwing the ball down the field too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for me, this is a very surprising result.
Yeah. It made Dolphins number one, baby.
Made the Dolphins number one. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Bengals are still mathematically in this thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think the real story here is that it shook up the AFC South, which we've already talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. What are the?
Well, let's talk about the playoff picture when we do the prediction episode.
That's a good idea. Let's do that.
Dig into it then.
Let's do that.
I think I'm ready to get into these superlatives, man. You ready? Talk about MVPs and trash and all that.
Let's do it. My MVP, I got to go with Mr. All-Pro Wiggle, Deebo Samuel. My God, 3 carries for 22 yards and a touchdown, 4 targets, 4 catches, 116 yards and 2 touchdowns to perform like that. Even though you've been talking shit about the Eagles all week, providing all that bulletin board material.
Yeah.
He talked his shit. He called the Eagles DBs trash. And then when the game started, this dude showed up and he showed the fuck out. Deebo Samuel. And then in the press conference, you see his post-game press conference, he shows up in did he have he had like a black turtleneck?
It looked like a
black shirt
and the thick chains.
And a black leather jacket. Yeah. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I talk trash. That's just like part of the game. I hope nobody took that too seriously. It's all just fun. And it's like this motherfucker, he's getting my MVP this week for being fucking cool.
You the real MVP.
And then we had on my end, I got to go with Andrew Van Ginkel of the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm biased, partially as a Dolphins fan and partially because I saw every snap that he played. But I'm going to have to say Andrew Van Ginkel was MVP of the day. Guy was playing with his hair on fire, as he has been all season. I've been saying that I think that he did a steroid cycle off season because of how the big difference in how he's playing this year than last year. Must be a steroid cycle. He was we all left MetLife Stadium with a sour taste in our mouths after realizing that we lost one of our top defenders, outside linebacker Jalen Phillips. Where would that productivity come from? Was the question we all asked. Phillips seemed to be everywhere. And then on Sunday, we all got to see the plan in full effect. And I'm not saying Van Ginkel is Phillips by any means, but I'm also not saying Van Ginkel didn't look like a star of the defense. He was filling run gaps, setting edges, pressuring, hitting Sam Howell, and topped it off with an amazing read of a screen that resulted in him backing off his pursuit like a pro and intercepted a pass and then taking it all the way back for a pick six. That Fangio defense is really coming into shape, and Van Ginkel is starting to thrive in his bigger role. And I have to say, Andrew Van Ginkel.
You the real MVP.
Yeah, he's a bad man.
My trash is a long one, bro. My trash is Brad Allen's. You know Brad Allen?
No.
You know him. You know him because you probably don't like him right now. He's the crew chief, the head referee of the crew that refereed the Chiefs-Packers game. We got us a good Sunday night game, and it could have been an even better game were it not for some horrible officiating in what has already been a poorly refed season of football. I don't like getting into saying refs change the final outcome of a game, but that just may have been the case in this game. We saw some bad calls early that didn't have game-changing feels, like that bogus late hit call Mahomes got on the sideline because he's him. But that was a bad call, but it was kind of understandable. But that no call on that obvious pass interference that would have put the Chiefs in the red zone was abhorrent. I've seen late flags come out before. I don't normally like them after the refs huddle and then they throw a flag, but it would have been completely understandable in this case. The guy was draped all over Valdez-Scantling, and it created a situation where the Chiefs had to go for a Hail Mary. The team in New York that's watching the game, they're sitting there. That's the thing that's supposed to be a safety thing for all of us. And this was the only game on, so they had to see it. How do we let the missed call happen when we have the technology that's required to fix it? How is there no accountability? There was also a point in the game where the crew didn't run the clock when they should have, as you mentioned. When he was held up in bounds, he went sideways to get out of bounds. The defender stopped his forward progress, and then he was awarded a stop clock. Another bad call. Then on the final Hail Mary, Kelsey gets pushed in the back. And I know they never call this, but when the crew sucks ass, I got to be petty and bring up a call that they missed. They also forgot the 10-second runoff when they reviewed and overturned the Rice fumble. And that was actually a good call to review and overturn it, but they couldn't get everything right now, could they? The New York team should have caught that. At least say, hey, man, 10-second runoff, don't forget. Since they were in on the review, obviously. So this was horrible. Were the Packers a better team that night? We don't know. Would they have won with those plays called correctly? We don't know that either. What we do know is that we should know. And we don't know because they botched a bunch of calls that would have swung a game, and that shouldn't happen. I hope this team doesn't get to ref a playoff game as a punishment for this. Normally that's what happens. You don't get a big game. And that I say that because Brad and your crew.
You are trash!
Also, those are all great points, by the way.
Thank you.
The other point that I think is kind of interesting is that, they said on the broadcast, like, regarding the pass interference against Kelsey on the final play of the game, like, oh, you gotta hit a guy with a crowbar to get a pass interference call on a Hail Mary. In my opinion, a pass that originates from the 33-yard line, that's not a Hail Mary.
Good point. Good point.
I don't.
Were they at the 33?
They were at the 33-yard. They were at the Green Bay 33-yard line. I'm sorry, but that's not a Hail Mary.
Nah,
it's just not.
It's a pass. Yeah, good point. It's a game. It's the end of the game pass. It's a last second throw, but that's it.
Not a Hail Mary.
We all did treat it like a Hail Mary. That's a good point.
Okay.
What's your trash?
My trash, I'm going to go with the New York Jets for a lot of reasons, but mostly for forcing us to watch both Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian play NFL football in the year 2023. What the fuck are we doing here, Jets? If Jets fans had a soul, I might actually feel bad for them because these poor fucks had to sit there in the rain and watch their defense hold a very below average Atlanta Falcons team to only 13 points while still managing to lose the game. This decision to stick with Wack Wilson, the decision to bring in Rodgers' buddy as a backup, and just the overall decision to punt on the idea of trying to make a move at the trade deadline, to me, I mean, it makes the New York Jets the dumbest and most mismanaged football team in the NFL this year, in my opinion. The Jets are fucking trash.
You are trash!
What's your shit got learned?
I learned the best alternative idea to a relegation league that I think I've ever heard.
Okay.
It was an idea that popped up when I was listening to the Ringer Fantasy Football podcast. I don't remember which guy said it, and I don't really remember the exact particulars, but to be fair, they probably don't either. The basic idea was this. And in some ways, I realize this would be a bit of a scheduling nightmare, but the basic core idea, I think, would be amazing. So the idea is that at some point towards the end of the season, once it is very clear which teams have zero chance of making the playoffs, and there are several teams in line for the top pick in the draft, you would force those teams, probably four, let's say the four worst teams in the league, you would force them to participate in a playoff-style tournament for the purpose of winning the right to the number one overall pick. What do you think?
Doesn't that kind of go against the... Yeah, I like it. Make them win.
They do this... They actually do something similar to this in European football, where usually at the end of a European football season, the most fascinating drama that plays out is the relegation playoff.
Yeah.
It's usually like four teams who are playing for a chance to either stay.
Right. But that's more, to me, that's more like the worst one dropping out. That's when to me that's even better than the best one getting.
I agree, but I'm saying that I don't think that's ever going to happen in the NFL. Yeah. As much as I agree that should exist, we don't currently have the infrastructure to facilitate that.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a league, we don't have a lower level league system set up in that way. So what I'm
the XFL, man.
Yeah. Well, actually,
make it your relegation league.
So I just think it would be really kind of a fascinating twist on the end of the season if you take the four worst teams and you make them fight for the number one overall pick.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun.
I like that. How many teams are in the XFL? It's 8 teams, right?
Well, they're merging with the USFL. We were going to talk about that. It's in the news.
Okay.
They've announced the merger.
Oof, I can't wait to hear about that. All right. Man, what if that does become a relegation league? My shit got learned is this year's quarterback situation is the worst probably in my lifetime, at least in a long time. 15 teams have started multiple quarterbacks this season. That's almost half of the league. It makes me think about your ongoing 2023 take that teams need to have a backup quarterback fund or something like that. The crazy thing is the top 4 teams in both conferences have one thing in common until last night, because you don't happen to T-Law, but they remained healthy at the quarterback position. No surprise there. The quarterbacks that are healthy are winning the games. And I can't remember a season where quarterback play was this shoddy, where you have Tommy DeVito coming out and starting a game and Trevor Siemian coming in to relieve a shitty quarterback. Some teams had healthy quarterbacks that just sucked, i.e. the Jets, but the injury bug has plagued the league, and we might just get a lackluster playoffs because of it. And I'm really not looking forward to these lopsided games that we might get. I'm getting scared, man. Scariest AFC team, I got to go with my Dolphins, man. The defense coming on like that, offense possibly being a juggernaut. I think it is my Dolphins. Who you got, AFC?
I think it's probably the Dolphins, too. For me, it's a bit of a coin toss between the Dolphins and the Ravens. The Dolphins keep beating the snot out of teams. The Ravens, on the other hand, are out here handling their business on a bye, and they're on a bye week, just watching the rest of their division lose, and beat the shit out of each other, except for obviously the Bengals one. But but the Dolphins looks. I'd have to, if the word we're going for is scary, I'd have to say Dolphins. Dolphins are terrifying.
Yeah. NFC team, who you got? I mean, who do we have? We have the same one.
It's got to be the 40. After you beat the snot out of the Eagles, it's got to be the 49ers. It's sort of a no-brainer.
And finally, I'm putting some spec on Shane Steichen, man. We had no expectations from him going in as the Colts head coach, and he has outperformed all the projections with losing the quarterback that he came in to coach. So I'm going to say with that backup quarterback, and now they're 7-5. Who saw the Colts going 7-5 right now, already having 7 wins with a few weeks left to go? I didn't, for one. So I'm saying it's about that time, man. This guy left the Eagles, and the Eagles look like they're still trying to figure things out, and he's holding it down over there. I think Shane Steichen is out here telling us.
Put some respect on my name.
It's a very good point. For me, anytime you go 25 for 36, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, you beat the Super Bowl champs, I think you deserve a little spec on that name. Not only that this dude over the past 3 weeks, Jordan Love has thrown 857 yards, 8 touchdowns, and no picks in 3 weeks. I have to admit that I probably wrote this dude off a little too soon, because he looks very capable of keeping this team in a playoff hunt and maybe even playing spoiler to a big contender along the way. He looks like he belongs in the league, especially now that the rest of the team has started to gel around him. Packers are 6-6, so bit of a roller coaster. But I feel like Jordan Love has earned his right to be the starter in Green Bay. I don't expect them to win the Super Bowl or anything, but I would love to see if they could keep this going into next year, and prove that the Packers may have stumbled onto another fucking franchise quarterback. I gotta say it. Jordan Love, got to put some spec on this kid's name.
Put some respect on my name.
All right, man. Well, that's it for week 13. Got that knocked out. Really appreciate y'all checking this episode out. And we'll be back to do it again, man. That's what we do around here. We hold it down at SveNFL. Look forward to getting back to y'all about week 14. Week 13 is in the book. So it's been Jonathan Rollins.
Give me Zara.
With SveNFL. Peace.
Hey, y'all.